Noah Basketball is our new presenting sponsor of our Coaching You podcast. Noah Basketball is a shot tracking and data company that has helped change how coaches and players perfect the game's most important skill, shooting. Noah is a data service provider that uses machine learning and the latest computer vision technology to provide real-time data and feedback to improve shooting accuracy and consistency for professional and amateur basketball players. Noah has now analyzed over 570 million shots from countless high school, hundreds of college teams, and 28 NBA franchises. The technology is simply amazing. Once the system has been installed, players will be able to get immediate feedback on their shooting arc, left and right positioning, depth, makes or misses, and makes the data available to players and coaches on your mobile device. For more information about how Noah can help your team, visit noahbasketball.com. Hey, welcome to another Coaching You podcast with the Coach Brendan Suhr, presented by Noah Basketball. Today, one of my dearest friends in basketball, someone I loved as a player, coaching him, known him since high school in Birmingham, Brother Rice High School in beautiful Michigan when I was coaching the Pistons. Phenomenal all-state player, McDonald's All-American, doesn't pick Michigan or Michigan State, goes to the University of Iowa because one of our best friends and Coaching You faculty member, George Raveling, was the coach of the University of Iowa. He came into Michigan and recruited him over Michigan, Michigan State, and Notre Dame and gets him to go to Iowa. George leaves after a year, goes to USC to be the head coach, and a fellow by the name of Dr. Tom Davis leaves Stanford and comes to the University of Iowa. Dr. Tom is one of the great coaches of all time. BJ is going to talk to us about playing for him, what he taught him. More importantly, then he's going to talk about playing for Phil Jackson, Tex Winter. Chuck Daly and I had the pleasure of coaching him towards the end of his career, but we played against him since he was a rookie with the Bulls. And he's going to talk about a couple of things. I wanted him to talk about his philosophy of offense, defense, how he would coach the game, since he loves the idea of coaching. He loves teaching young people. And then also Dr. Tom's philosophy on basketball and the Cutter's offense, which a lot of people would call the flex, that one of his assistant coaches at Iowa, Bruce Pearl, the coach of Auburn, the number one team in the country, uses now at Auburn. And so I think it's a really cool talk. And then we're going to talk about the Bulls and the Tex Winter triangle offense, which is one of the best offenses ever created, but no one can run it properly or win with it except Phil Jackson and Tex Winter, with the Bulls and with the Lakers. So he's going to give us some insight, but more importantly, he's going to tell you his philosophy of why it's a good offense. So I think it's really great. I love, one of my philosophies is that, whether you're a good coach or not, most of us think we're pretty good coaches, overvalue ourselves. But I'm telling you, my players that I've coached, I've learned way more from them than they've learned from me. And I think guys like Tom Davis and Tex and Phil feel the same way. But that's how I feel about BJ. He and I talk all the time about basketball. I learned so much in talking to him. So after a word from our sponsors and partners, I think you're really going to enjoy our conversation with three-time world champion, the great BJ Armstrong. Coaches, are you looking to take your game preparation to the next level? Then Fast Model Sports is the perfect coaching software for you. With FastDraw, build an organized library of plays and drills and create professional playbooks to share with your players and staff. You can also download over 9,500 free plays and drills from our Playbank directly to your FastDraw account. Looking for a better way to build your scouting reports and want to include video? With FastScout, build custom scouting report templates to prepare your team best for each individual opponent. Plus, did you know with the latest updates from Fast Model Sports, you can now include video with your FastScout reports and share with your coaches and staff all within the FastScout mobile app. The combination of FastDraw and FastScout is by far the best way for you and your coaches to create winning game strategies and effectively communicate them to your team. Over 10,000 high school and youth coaches trust Fast Model Sports products to help their teams reach their goals. To order, go to fastmodelsports.com. Use code COACHINGU15 to get 15% off any FastDraw or FastScout products. Remember, go to fastmodelsports.com. Use code COACHINGU15 to get 15% off any FastDraw and FastScout products. All right, welcome back from our partners and sponsors. And today is an absolutely incredible treat. One of my dearest friends in the world, and especially in life and basketball, BJ Armstrong, is with us today. BJ, welcome, my friend.
Well, Coach Suhr, it's always a pleasure and an honor to be in your presence, just to be in your presence.
We talk a couple of times a day usually, and so we don't do that many Zooms so this is a treat to see your very handsome face. But listen, I listen all the time to you and Mo Muncy on your incredible podcast that you have, Hoop Genius, which is heard throughout Europe and the Middle East. Just spectacular. It's really entertaining. It's really fun. And you and Mo bantering about what's going on in the NBA and stuff like that. But you're someone that in all of our conversations, you are one of the most intelligent players I ever knew in the NBA, and one of the most intelligent players that I ever coached in the NBA. First of all, for our listeners that might not be familiar with, you played collegiately at the University of Iowa, recruited by the Hall of Famer, our dear friend George Raveling, and for 1 year, and then another man that I'm closely associated with, the great Dr. Tom Davis, who I coached against when I was in college, and he was at Boston College. You played for him for 3 years at the University of Iowa. Dr. Tom, I thought, was one of the most innovative coaches that I ever coached against. But at the same time, what made Dr. Tom so effective was his simplicity and the way he taught. But you graduated from Iowa in '89. You recently went into their Hall of Fame. So let's start there before we get to your Bulls and professional career. But I wanted to talk about you. You're now embarked in our coaching profession, and you're a third grade coach of your son. Yeah. Is that like, you think, coaching Michael Jordan? You think, or maybe harder? What's it like to coach young Julian?
Well, first of all, you are correct. I am coaching. I was asked with our youngest child to, Dad, would you coach the team? The other two were like, no, you just carry the Gatorade and the water. And they just said, hey, just carry the bag. So I was just a visitor. I would go to the basketball games with our two oldest, and they would say, hey, Dad, you're not the coach. What do you know? So I just sat on the sideline and I watched. And unexpectedly one day, going to school, our youngest said, hey, Dad, would you coach the team? And I thought, before I almost swerved off the road, I go, wow, this guy actually thinks that maybe I can help him do something. He never listens for anything else, but it's been educational, to say the least, because this is the only time that he will listen to anything I have to say. It's just during the game. And then as soon as the game is over with, he goes right back to doing his own thing. And I just listen to him, and he's telling me what to do. But it's been a lot of fun. you know what I love most about it are the kids. I love the idea of you're helping young people and you're introducing them to a collective thing that we all share, which is, you know, we're here to basically just have fun and work with one another and figure out how we can do something collectively and have a one thought. Our thought with our group is we're going to have fun and we're going to pass the ball and share with one another. And you know, it's interesting. My only goal with each game is for everyone to score. That's my goal. And I love, so, you know, we're 2-0, coach. So I'm undefeated. So I'm feeling really good about myself. The kids are feeling really good about themselves. But the interesting thing is I love it when the kids say, you know, hey, Elijah hasn't scored yet, coach. The fact that they are aware of that at like 9 years of age, to me, is just like fantastic. And they love the fact when they make a pass. So, you know, you have little things like that really just mean a lot. And I'm just there to have fun with them. But to answer your question about what's the difference, it all boils down to the same thing, you know, like it's just like I learned this after the first game. Like, what is my true philosophy, right? And as I'm coaching or whatever I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing, but as I am sitting there on the sideline with these young people, it's very obvious that if you can't defend, you have no chance.
Even in third grade.
Even at third grade, right?
Yeah.
If you can't, and then if you can't get that rebound once the other team scores, or while the other team shoots, you have no chance. So that to me is the obvious. But it has been incredible. It's been an incredible lot of fun. And we'll see where it goes. But I'm enjoying every moment of it.
So you played for Chuck Daly at the towards the end of your career, which we loved having you there. And so I wanted to remind you of one of our recent podcasts when you said that you're absolutely loving it and you're 2-0. Chuck would say to you, BJ, don't trust happiness. That he would say, like with the owners or in college with the boosters.
Right.
Soon those parents, they'll become a terrorist organization towards you. You know, they'll be pissed off at you. My kid didn't get enough shots. My kid didn't get enough playing time. You were fine last weekend because you only had 5 players. So
yes.
No subs. Okay. And no timeouts. You were trying to be Chuck Daly in the Olympics with no timeouts in the whole Olympics, you know. All right. So you played the 4 years at Iowa. You play 11 years in the pro. You win 3 world championships. You played for great coaches. You learned a lot because you're very, very, you consume everything. And you're one of the few players that you coach in the league that really listens and learns. Right. So let's talk now about, as you're reflecting, you have now established at this point in your life, if you were coaching, you have philosophy. Okay. So, and you're in the philosophy that you would have, now we're talking at a higher level, high school, college, and pro. Give me, I think it's the same. I really do, as far as philosophy. And I don't mean the plays you run as much as the way you play. So what would your philosophy be overall, just an overall philosophy?
Overall, yeah. You know, I was very fortunate to have exceptional coaches like yourself. And I really mean that, because you get an opportunity to reflect and learn as you go about your journey and your path. I was just talking to my high school coach yesterday, and I in this regard, I got really lucky. I had some amazing coaches along my path. And as you are asking that question, and as I'm coaching now with my youngest son, with our youngest son, my philosophy is very simple, right? How do you take something that's very complex? And when you watch the game of, whether you're watching the NBA or the NCAA or high school or what have you, it's so simple now to me that now it's gotten complicated, even just saying this. My philosophy boils down to two things. I'm going to defend, and I'm going to defend for 94 feet.
Yes.
Without question. I'm going to defend, and I'm going to be able to extend that to where I can apply pressure for 94 feet. You're going to have to be prepared to play against a BJ Armstrong coach team. I am convinced of that. Okay. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. And then I'm going to be able to rebound the basketball on both ends. I'm going to limit the other team to one shot. And then I'm going to figure out offensively to have an offense where it allows our team to be in position to get an offensive rebound. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to rebound the basketball and control those two aspects of the game, or be impactful to influence the outcome of the game, because that has to be the identity of our group. That's non-negotiable.
Let's talk about offensive rebounding. I think it's one of the most untaught parts of the game right now. Everyone's focusing on these pick and roll plays they see on Twitter, and crap like that, and all these kids from high school up or even younger, they get a personal coach, trainer to work with them one-on-one, 1-on-0, and all they work on is offense. No one's working on defense, blocking out, rebounding, passing, all those things that really make good players and teams. Right. And so one of the things about the offensive rebounding that I've observed at every level, and this really goes high school, college for sure, and in the pros, is no one blocks out anymore. No. There's no blocking out. Our friend Tom Izzo from Michigan State, he sends 4 people to the offensive glass, Kelvin Sampson, every time, because they just believe that you're not going to block out. And so they don't worry about getting back on defense as much as they do getting an offensive rebound. Right. And then they'll bust their ass getting back, in defense. So I agree with you on that, BJ.
Yeah, there's certain principles that I think championship caliber teams have to abide by. And one of those is you have to understand what is your responsibility, what is your role, what's the one thing that you're going to be held accountable to the group. Okay. Well, team defense is one of those things that you can do consistently night in and night out. We may not shoot well. We may not, shoot at a high percentage from 3 or what have you. But defensively, we can have an identity that will allow us to do what I call the philosophy of excellence, which is if you don't score and I don't score, the score is still 0-0. That keeps me in the game. Yep. If I just make one shot and you don't score, I win the game. So I want to make sure that our group have what I call a championship mentality, okay? And that we are in the room of brilliance. We're in the room of brilliance, okay? I'm not here to be popular. I'm not here to, figure out how to be the most popular coach or the most popular team. But in the room of brilliance, we're going to give ourselves a chance. And the chance starts there. We have to be able to defend as a group. That gives us our identity. When you come into the game and you play against a BJ Armstrong coach team, the first thing you're going to say, this is how they play. Make no doubt about it. Okay? We're going to be a team we're going to value and respect the fact that if you get 2 or more shots on the offensive end, that limits our ability to accomplish what we came here to accomplish. Because you got to answer the why. Why are we here? We're here to win the game. Well, if we're here to win the game, there are principles that we have to abide by. Right. So we have to defend and we have to rebound. That has to be the identity of our group, 1 through 15, and our coaching staff. And then from there, we can build out what's necessary. Okay. And then we get to the offensive end, which, we're discussing now. Well, we have to share the ball with one another. And then we can begin to build from there and learn how to pass and work on the fundamentals. The great Tex Winter would be happy to hear ping.
Right.
He would be happy that we will be a team that we will try to accomplish one simple thing, which is how many uncontested shots can we get on a nightly basis? And that's, and you and I, and you perhaps coach, in my humble opinion, one of the greatest defensive teams of all time, right? If not the greatest. You can argue that Detroit Piston team that you were a part of was one of certainly the greatest defensive teams of all time. But what we learned, or what I learned in that series, in that moment in time, is that ball movement is going to beat anything that's going on with a great defensive team. You got to move the ball, and you have to move it and make decisions very quickly. So ball movement, player movement is one of the principles that you got to abide by, but your team has to respect the fact and value why ball movement and passing the ball is valued with really good teams. There's a reason that team is good, because they move the ball. And then once you move the ball, you move bodies. So, rebounding, defending, and passing the ball, those are the things that I would value to give an identity of who we are as a group.
BJ, you and I have talked about this and everyone plays differently. Everyone, and the purpose is, I believe every coach needs to have their own philosophy. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people in the NBA that share very similar philosophies. We're both huge football fans, and Zach is, of course, too. And, we understand that every college and pro football team plays differently. Mm-hmm. Okay. But so on the fast break, when your team gets possession of ball, I know you've been a big believer in rim running and stuff like that, which is not popular with a lot of people. But I'm telling you, I'm more convinced of it than ever. I really am more convinced of it than ever, that if you can beat your guy down the court. And so talk a little bit about how your fast break would look as far as filling lanes and stuff like that, because that's where I think some of the biggest discussions come, where I think the emphasis is more on 5-man offense fast break as opposed to 2, 3, and 4-man fast break, which we try to really get an advantage over the defense that's getting back.
Yeah, well, one of the things, Coach, is I always want to value and take advantage of the full length of the court, right? It's much harder for big guys, in my opinion, to play than us little guys. Us little guys, we play the cute game. We run from 3-point line to 3-point line, right? We run around.
Right.
If you're good, you'll get to the free throw line and you'll play. Well, these big guys have to go from end line to end line. And when you respect how hard it is to play on the defensive end, because it requires two things of every defensive player, you got to provide the effort and the energy necessary to play on that end. That's effort and energy. Well, I'm going to hold the defense. If we're on the offensive end, I'm going to hold you accountable, because I know it's harder for you to defend me when I attack the basket than for me to let you off the hook and shoot a 3. So I'm going to basically try to attack you at every moment. And that's where rim running, to me, is of value, because that forces you to play 94 feet, first of all. And I want to basically be at a very aggressive team. I want my team to attack, because that is the hardest thing to stop. It's when someone's constantly applying pressure to you, you have to make a decision on the defensive end, and it requires you to have the discipline. So rim running with my big or my first big going down the middle of the court, it forces you defensively to make a decision. Either you're going to allow that player for us to throw the ball ahead and have our wing runners, right? Let's just say, for the sake of this conversation, our wing runners, our 2 and our 3, running wide on the wings. Our rim runner, I want them to go straight down the center of the court, because we can provide the spacing necessary. Every time we play, I always try, I prefer to have an offensive set where wherever the ball is at, that they have the option to pass to the other four players with the proper spacing, so that we can always have the ability to do three things. We can attack you with the pass, we can attack you with the dribble, and we can attack you with the shot. Because a shot has to be part of our offensive philosophy, because we should have the ability with the proper spacing to get the offensive rebound when the shot goes up. Everything we do is with the ability to attack the defense and do it in what I would prefer to do it in 2 seconds or less. Because I want our team to play with the flow. Because I want everyone to have the opportunity to make these decisions and make them quickly with the proper spacing. So having a rim runner come down the middle of the court forces the defense to say, either I'm going to pick up that, which probably will give you a cross match, a cross match with a big on a little, or the little guarding the big guy. And then I'll have my point guard or lead guard in today's vocabulary. And then you have your wing runners, and then you have your other big coming at as an opportunity to reverse the ball and play on the weak side of the floor. So the rim runner, in my view, is probably the most difficult thing to defend, because it allows me to always be in position to play with a direct pass right to the center of the basket. I just think pass it up ahead, pass it to there. That's almost impossible to defend. Okay. So that forces you to make a decision, and then you allow your wings, you allow your guards, your ball handlers, you allow yourself to have the proper spacing to be able to take advantage of what I feel every good offensive team must have. They must have what I call a blended brand of basketball, which I learned from you. You want to be able to play inside and out, and just not be predictable and say we're all a perimeter three-point shooting team, or we're all a team that just goes inside. You want to have a blended brand of basketball, which allows you to take advantage of your strengths, but more importantly, to exploit what the other team doesn't do well. So that would be my philosophy.
Hey, BJ, and I totally agree on that. When that big is coming down the court, you mentioned it. Sometimes he's going to beat a big down the court, so someone's going to have to pick him up, and it might be a smaller player. Yes. How do you work, and what is your philosophy footwork-wise on teaching that guy, and you're trying to seal that guy against a small or a big, right in the middle of the lane, correct? Right?
Yes, I like for my bigs to run literally down the center of the floor and post that big up. If you can post them in the first row, post them up. I want to be as deep in the lane as possible. Yeah, so they have that charge block arc now. So that your footwork is going right down to that button hook, sealing that guy. Yes. And a direct pass, ideally right from the lead guard, correct? A direct pass right there, and play big. Play big. I don't. What's the point of being 7 feet if you can't play like a 7-footer? I love bigs. Secretly, I always wanted to be a big, so I'm partial to the bigs. I'm partial to the big guys. So if I love bigs that can seal, play big, catch the ball, and you know what? I'll live with a couple of offensive fouls just by being big. But make the other team make the decision. Do you really want to play this brand of basketball where we're not going to settle? We're not going to let you off the hook by just coming down, shooting a three. No, we're going to force you to come down, play, and we're going to get the shot that we want. And we're going to be a disciplined team to be able to do that. So having that big who is dedicated to that, to me, is the first step. But more importantly, as we're talking about, things you don't see often, you don't see post pass. You don't see perimeter players passing to the post.
Right.
So having guards that have the ability to pass to the post in a timely fashion with the correct rhythm, given the proper, target to receive that pass. So these are the details that in a previous era that was kind of common, where you just don't see it today. But I think it's absolutely necessary because it's so hard to defend. It's just really hard to defend and be able to supply that effort and energy that's necessary to defend that. Any big will tell you that's a tough defend when a big guy gets down the court, starts sealing, moving, and more importantly, the offensive team has the ability to pass that ball to that interior player when he's open. So I want to be able to exploit that because I know how hard that really is to do. I mean, that's you have to be dedicated to do that on the defensive end.
So B, if you're going, let's say you're bringing the ball up the right side and you pass it ahead to the guy running the right lane, the right wing area, and he feeds the post, you like to run splits like you did in Chicago, right?
I love splits. I love splits. And the reason I love splits is because I want to be able to have movement when the ball is in the interior. Everything has to, and everything that I've learned over the years is I want to defend a team where there's no movement.
Right.
Like, I want to defend where everyone just passes it and everyone stands.
Right.
That's what I want to defend. What I don't want to defend is every time that ball moves, players start moving.
Yeah.
Okay. Because now it requires me to utilize effort and energy. But more importantly, I have to always be in the correct position because guys are back cutting, switching, splits, and doing those things. So for me, if we are on the right wing, big post deep into the lane, come strong side, we get him the ball. Now I'm going to run splits. All right. The reason I'm going to run splits is because I want to have that 2 seconds where I can move the ball again. And then let's check out what's really going on. If there's no double team, then big fella, that's your cue to operate. If there, for some reason, there is a double team and we have a big player or a post player that is good enough to command a double team, I want to be able to give him the opportunity to pass to the next available, right, as we're moving. And so those things are essential because you want players to play with a level of freedom, but also we always want to be prepared for every situation that we may see, whether it comes in the first part of our offensive sequence, the second part, the third part, and we always want to have counters to everything that's going on. So that to me is part of the coaching and the preparation so that players will always feel organized and can do things instinctively. Because I think the best teams and the best players all play through their instincts other than trying to be correct or make a read based on a play. Just you're prepared for that moment. I trust you. I just go out there and as you know, as I've learned over the years, when you equip the players with the fundamentals, then your instincts will do the rest.
And B, when you played at Iowa with Dr. Tom, you ran a similar type of fast break, and then, as some people call it a secondary break, but then when the ball was reversed to the top, is that when you guys would go into cutters, or or not all the time?
Well, I think over the years, I've also come to this conclusion. I've played on teams, and I didn't learn this till later in being around people like yourself, being around other coaches, and going to, clinics and what have you. The best offenses or the best offensive coaches who play in what we call, fast break offense or early offense, whatever you want to call it, your terminology, you have to be dedicated to the fast break. Because what ends up happening is you'll run the break just to get to your second and third options, and then you stop running. So the first thing is, let's run and make a distinction between our fast break or our half court. You don't want to be halfway in there. You're just kind of running to just do it. No, we're trying to attack that basket. That's That's our fast break offense. And if we don't have our fast break offense, let's run our half court offense and make a distinction. So that to me is what makes a great team. You have a clear set of what you're doing. Either we're running our fast break or we're executing in our half court offense. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to be in between where I'm just kind of running through it. Okay. When we cut, we cut. When we run. And that is the distinction of a great team. It's when you know a team can execute in the half court, that's a dangerous team. I want to play against a team who just kind of like they're looking for second and third options. That's a team I want to defend because you know what? They're not committed to anything. I don't want to play against a team that is committed to the fast break because that team now I have to commit to getting back every single time. And I have to play maybe faster than I want to play, provided, that's not our style of play. So either we're a fast break team or we're a half court team.
Got it.
And we do one or either. I would prefer for us to do both because you have to do both, but commit to running your fast break, if that's your style of play.
So when you were at Iowa, the assistant coach on the team, just a young guy, like most really assistant coaches.
He's about 26 years old, 27.
Most young guys, they don't know what the hell they're doing at that age, but you had this guy, a young guy, and he's learning at the foot of Dr. Tom. And I don't know what happened to the guy. I think he's still coaching, but, he's using the same things that we're talking about and the same things that he learned from Dr. Tom.
Yes.
What's his name?
It was this young guy in my sophomore year. Coach couldn't have been more than 27, 28 years old. I think he was about 26 at the time. This young guy's name was Bruce Pearl. And you think he has energy now, you should have saw him back then. Okay.
Yeah.
Coach Bruce Pearl had a lot of energy. And when I tell you he had, he just brought the energy that was necessary to play and do and all of the things that you see him doing now. So Coach Pearl, I learned, one, what it meant to provide the energy with any team that you bring. He had energy day one. And I also learned from him, that, there is a level of enthusiasm that you have to play the game at. And he brought that every day. So effort and energy, I owe that to Coach Pearl. He brought that every single day. Now, it was so over the top that most of us couldn't reach his effort and energy every day. But I can still see him right now, and you can ask him. We pressed, and Coach Davis he had committed to playing fast. He committed to that. He committed to the process of saying, this is how we play. And Coach Pearl committed to matching the energy that was necessary for us to play that way on both sides of the ball. And he would be out there diving on the floor, literally. He would be out there screaming and trapping. And if you did something correct, he was always the first guy to how coaches would come up and say, hey, nice job. Well, he would literally tackle you. He just had that level of energy, and it made it fun because we were having fun, and we committed to that style of play. So I owe that to Coach Davis. We committed to playing fast. We committed to the fast break. We didn't play it second option, third option. No, we were committed to the fast break. And 9 times out of 10, we had 6 players on the floor because Coach Pearl was right there with us on the fast break. He was in what we call 55, which is our full court. I can still see Coach Pearl on the sideline, jumping up and down and doing all those things. So yeah, we committed to that. And I never forgot that we committed to a style of play, to a brand of basketball that gave us an identity. No matter who we played against, where we played against, we were committed to that. So, but yeah, Bruce Pearl was there. And so to watch Auburn right now, it's amazing. And you know what I love watching about Coach Pearl right now is how it has evolved as he has evolved as a coach. And he is taking the same principle, which we called cutters, which is basically flex offense, and utilizes the principles of ball movement, player movement, but according or whatever the strengths of his team, he exercises different ways to utilize the same principles of offense that we did back in the 80s. And to me, it's absolutely brilliant. It's just brilliant to watch him and see what he's doing with that offense now.
And you know, you talked about your 55 defense, the full court 1-2-1-1 press and stuff.
Look at you. It's still ingrained.
Oh no, I got my ass beat by Tom Davis, so it's like a scar embedded on me now. You know, I still love the guy. You know, I know also that I beat his ass too. But you know, you don't forget those things. But you know, one of the things about Bruce is, you know, I love innovation in our game that's, you know, so old. But Bruce has innovated and took the 55 press and pressed every time you take the ball baseline out of bounds play.
Right.
So when you're taking the ball baseline out of bounds to go to your own basket underneath, 88% of all fouls and everything in college basketball are underneath. NBA, it's just the opposite, side out of bounds. Every violation, turnover, we get the ball side out. College, you get it baseline out of bounds. So he now, and most coaches, where they throw the ball? Into the corner, right where he wants it. Right. So he traps big on the ball, traps the pass to the corner. No one comes off getting a shot. It's absolutely brilliant. And people try to copy him, but it's hard to copy the master, in my opinion. So really good like that. Let's talk about what you talked about. It I used to call when I played against Tom, and then when Gary Williams, who is also an assistant of Tom Davis, when he went to Maryland, he ran the same offense, and I used to call it a power flex. And because he didn't always screen down on the screener, he would duck the guy in when you switched. So that was a big ducking in. And you switched, and now you had a guard on your big man. So you told me last year, oh, that was our cutters offense. I said, I never heard cutters before. So if you would, I think it's so badly needed in basketball now, because with the 5-out offense, we have so much standing around, so much pick and roll. And I think still, I'm like you, I can handle that if you're not moving. But if you're moving and cutting, it's a pain in the ass to defend. So if you'd explain basic concepts of the cutter offense.
So in today's game, you see a lot of what we call 5-out offenses, which basically you have 5 perimeter players and they're driving to kick. The principles of defending, I say, what's the most difficult thing to defend? So you come down, you try to get a fast break. Team does a great job in transition defense, right? You do a great job. You withstand the initial thrust of the offense, and then now that forces the team to do one or two things. Either they're going to get up a quick shot, or they're going to have to go to their half-court offense. Well, what is the one thing that I know is extremely difficult is when a team actually are playing in a unit into what I would consider controlled chaos. Controlled chaos is not, I don't come out and just set up a play. I continue with my collective way of thinking by not having to reorganize. I want to create the chaos where there is none, right? You get back on job, you get back on defense, you do a great job. We don't get a layup. However, we keep attacking. We don't reset. We just keep attacking. So the reason I say that is hard to do is because now it's not a reorg. It doesn't get a time to exhale. Whew, we did a good job. Now let's start again. You just keep going. So we did that with the triangle offense, where we never, ever called a play. We were committed to the fast break. You got back, but we just kept playing. And we kept playing as a unit. I love cutters or the flex for that very same reason. Because the flex offense provides two things. It provides ball movement, which is essential to a team. And it involves player unit. I mean, ball movement, player movement. That movement is so difficult. You have down screens. You have flex cuts. You have an ability for your interior player to get post play. You have movement where you have down screens. It provides every essential variable that you need to be a good offensive team within the movement of everyone here can touch the ball from one side to another with movement. Just movement. That to me is what makes that's what makes the team, this is what makes an excellent team, when everyone knows they have the ability to touch the ball. Now, as the coaches and as the good teams know, you got to get the ball to your best player. However, having the ability to exercise all of the essential variables that you need on a good offensive team is captured into this one system of play without having to actually call a play. Right. And it just allows you to flow right into all of the things that you need. Down screens, post play, flex cuts, screen roll, everything that you can think of in the game. I can run a screen roll from the corner. I can run a screen roll from the top. I can do everything that you need, but it allows you to play and keep applying the pressure on the defense without having to reset your offense. And that is what, to me, it's just so difficult to do because you're constantly in a chaotic state where you don't see that often. And I think that's one of the traits that great teams have. They just keep playing.
BJ, talk about how do you get into it? Tell me about, how does one get into it? It starts with a pass from where to where, and then the cuts that you're making and how you cut and how you screen in it.
Yeah, well, the best way I like to always get into it is I always like my guards, and I try to do this myself, is I always like to come and cross half court in the middle of the court to create the strong side or the weak side. Okay. And I would always like to come and I don't even know if they use this term anymore. I would like to cross grain the ball. I would like to come over maybe across half court with my guard on, say, the right side and cross grain it and go to the left side. Okay. Throw the ball ahead. Right. So I'm going to throw the ball ahead because my 2 and 3s are running wide. Once we establish on the left side that that's the strong side, okay, my guard is what I'm going to call and come to the sweet spot, right? The sweet spot is you're going to be 15 to 18 feet, like literally behind, just slightly behind the wing that I'm passing the ball to. My big, who was posting up in the middle of the basket, now is going to declare the strong side.
Got it.
On the post. Okay. So I have the wing with the ball, strong side post, and then I have my guard at the sweet spot. Okay.
Got it.
My other wing now is going to stay wide. And then let's say my 4-man got down the floor first. Now my 5 guy is going to trail the play.
Got it.
So the wing is going to look into the post. There's nothing there. Swings it to the 1 who was at the sweet spot.
Right.
Swing it to the 5.
Right.
Swing it to the 5. Now, as the swing is happening and we throw it to our 3-man who stayed wide, Now we have what's called that flex cut. That two guard or two man, the two guard is going to come off the flex cut, set by a 5 screen. Now he's going to come and declare that as the strong side. We look at that. Is he open? Okay. If he's not open, okay, now that 3-man can reverse the ball on a down screen, 1 to the 5 is going to come on at a down screen. The 5's going to come up, catch the ball. So you got the 4, swing it to the 5. Now the 1 goes wide, and we do that again. Mm-hmm. And we just keep going, what we would call the flex motion or the flex offense. Now, you want to keep doing that, and you want to keep the movement, because at some point, more times than not, you're going to have a breakdown somewhere in the defensive with all of these cuts. Now, the one wrinkle that I like to put into that flex cut is I always want to cut low. On the flex cut, I like to cut on the baseline to really force the defense to sink. Okay, if I can get the ball low, and I learned this from Coach Davis, if I have the flex cutters cutting low on the baseline, you would always see a Tom Davis team throw that bounce pass on the baseline. Mm-hmm. Okay, so but I like to cut low because it forces the defense to have to expend that much more energy. just to let you know. And then if you have a great big like you and I know, you got to help on that flex cut, and then that allows that big to duck in right there, and that should be open. So you see Bruce Pearl's teams doing that all the time. He has a great big that he's utilizing in the same way. So that's kind of the flex cut or the motion, what we call cutters, that I think would be terrific if you could just do that at the end of a 24-second shot clock. Yeah. In today's game, because most of the teams, what do? After about 10 seconds of early offense, right? They just go into isolation basketball. Everyone just kind of stands, and then a double step back, things that you and I would love to defend, things you and I would love to defend against, because there's no player movement.
I love it. BJ, when you played for the Bulls, you're playing with arguably the greatest player ever in the world in mm-hmm. Michael Jordan. Scottie Pippen, as good a wing player as there ever has been in the NBA. You always had, you had different point guards. You had yourself. Then you had a lot of standstill shooters that couldn't do squat with the ball. Guys like Paxson and Kerr. They didn't miss a shot, but shit, they couldn't get anywhere by themselves. And you were the only guy that could do that, break the defense down. And then you played with. You could do it with. You had some decent centers, Cartwright, but then you could even do it with average centers, like guys like Winnington and guys like Luke Longley and stuff. Mm-hmm. But talk about Tex Winter's triangle offense. And amazingly, the only time it's ever worked in the NBA, it's been used a lot in college, especially in women's basketball, but it hasn't worked in the pros except where Phil Jackson and Tex Winters are coaching. Mm-hmm, and I would be in Los Angeles, or in Chicago. And it was built around stars. And, the 2 stars in L.A. are Kobe, Franklin, and Shaq, because mm-hmm. It's a good center offense because the ball can go to the center. But explain the simplicity of the triangle, and it was by far the hardest offense that Chuck and I ever had to defend, because we couldn't double team. And so explain how the movement of the triangle, the basic thing, and how this offense truly, every option, you always had 4 passes. Would you explain that? Yeah. And the movement's off the 4 passes.
So, in my humble opinion, the concept of the triangle offense, the only team that fully understood it was the Detroit Pistons. Okay, and the reason you guys understood it, because you understood defense. You understood the principles that are necessary to play defense. While we're calling this the offense, Phil Jackson never got the credit for what he really was. Phil Jackson was very competent as a defensive coach in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
The triangle offense wasn't an offense. In my humble opinion, it was our defense that created that was our offense. Our defense was built around the following. We had to have an offensive system that was built that allowed us to have the principle and the discipline to say we have to get every offensive rebound that we can possibly get versus a team like the Detroit Pistons. We have to be a really good team that limits the opportunity for the other teams to get easy transition baskets. And we have to be principled enough to not, and disciplined enough to not just take the first available shot. So our offense was always dictated by our defense. And that's what the triangle offense is. It's not an offense where you're saying, I'm playing with Michael Jordan, since we use this name. Well, it's not an equal opportunity offense in the NBA, as you know. Mm-hmm. Okay? The reason that the offense works with those players that you just mentioned, Shaq, Kobe, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, was because we had the awareness to say, we know who needs to get the ball at what particular time in the shot clock. Okay, we're running an offense where, okay, we're gonna run a blind pig, for instance, and Michael is gonna go down, and as you know, I don't have time to really explain it here, but truthfully speaking, we knew we had to get the ball to Michael with about 7 seconds, and we had to get him to a space where you, as a defensive team, couldn't double team him. Well, we quickly learned in a triangle offense, right? The number one priority you have to learn when you play as a team. The coaches have to equip the players with the necessary skills to function and operate under duress, because the Detroit Pistons were going to keep us under duress in a hostile environment. And that means we have to get our best player the ball where they can operate. And there's going to be that 2 or 3 seconds in any sequence where there's going to be an opportunity for that best player to have an advantage on the weak side of the court. We could not play against the Detroit Pistons in less than 4 passes, because the Detroit Pistons were going to take away everything. They're going to take away the strong side. If they know we're running play X, they're going to take that away. Then if they take that away, the Detroit Pistons were good enough to know, okay, now we're going to go to our next sequence in our offense, okay, which are the automatics, okay? So automatics, when coach knows automatics, coach is smiling right now because he knows that next sequence.
I get a little goosebumps now.
Yeah. So then we knew that our first option wasn't going to work against the Pistons. The Pistons are going to take away our next options, which is our automatic sequence. The third pass is just to get the ball to our best player on the fourth option, which will allow us to play for just 2 or more seconds on the weak side with perhaps one of the best, if not the best defensive guard in the league at that particular time in Joe Dumars. Coach Suhr knew it. We knew it. And now it just became a battle of the wheels. Mm-hmm. That is what and why you have a system of play, because as you advance in the playoffs, as you advance against good teams, a good team is going to take away the first, second, third option of any offense. That's why you're in the NBA finals, or that's why you're in the conference finals. Now it allows you have to figure out how to continue with your continuity and have the capability to get the ball to your best player where they best operate, and then you play from there. You guys taught me what being and what running a offensive system really means, because I knew I could not beat you on just a play. I wasn't going to beat you because I was a great screen and roll player. I wasn't going to beat you because I could run single double. I wasn't going to beat you on the first option. No, you guys were too good for that. But what I could do is I could force you to say, wow, they're not going to panic under the duress that you were used to seeing, because you took away everything. So, and we were always organized, even in situations where we didn't get the ball to our best player, because some nights you guys were better than we were on the defensive end than we were executing on the offensive end. But you always knew that there was a chess match. We always knew that you guys were going to make a wrinkle. And what made those teams, in my opinion, so fun was you guys were adjusting on the fly like we were adjusting on the fly. Okay. Once you guys figured out all of our options, I vividly remember where we went to like basically a 1-4 flat. And you guys were like, what's going on? What part of the offensive sequence is that? And then we saw you guys doing things defensively, where you started with your Jordan rules. And there was all these things that was going on. But the key for all of this is, can you keep your team and equip them with the ability to make a counter to anything you see, and you can play collectively as a group? And that to me is what's very difficult in playing. But you guys forced us to do that, because you were the only team that forced us, even though we may have had the best player in the series, you guys still had the best defensive team. And that's what made that chess match so great. And I learned so much during that series. And, you guys won championships. We were fortunate enough to win championships. But overall, I think those teams brought out probably the best in each other.
BJ, we have a ton of coaches that listen. Okay, what I want to do is, for those that, since we don't see any triangle offense now, let's give them the very, very basics from a two-guard front. We're going to give it, you're coming down the right side of the court.
Yes.
You're throwing the ball to, let's say, Scotty.
Okay.
And you can pick out whatever center you want to play with.
Yeah. Let's play with Bill Cartwright.
Bill Cartwright. We love Bill Cartwright. The teacher is phenomenal. And then we have Michael at left guard, and we have, who do you want on the weak side? Horace Grant, let's say.
We're going to put
Horace Grant, one of my favorites.
Let's put Horace there.
So now, and so the basic rules was that Tex had all different ways to form the triangle.
Yes.
So you would pass it to Scotty, and then you would cut inside. Okay, explain how you would cut.
Yeah. So if you have a two-guard front, right? And the reason you have a two-guard is because you always had to have the proper spacing, and you always had to have the ability to pass it and go into your second sequence, which we'll call our automatic series.
Right.
We wanted you to take away the first option. But most teams, we knew probably weren't good enough defensively to understand that.
Sure.
So we would run our sequence. So if I pass it to Scotty, I had a number of options that I could get to fill the strong side, which would be the corner on the strong side of the ball. So if I pass it to Scotty on the right side, I could get to the corner a number of ways. I could do an outside cut around Scotty. I could do a direct cut inside of Scotty. I could do what's called a UCLA cut and get to the corner. Or I had the other option to cut and go diagonally and go to the weak side and form the triangle on the weak side of the floor. Okay.
Right.
So for the sake of this, I pass it to Scotty and I go fill the corner. But I have to fill the corner as fast as I can. Make a hard cut. Okay. Because you want, direct cuts. You want to have cuts to the, wherever you're going to. So we would fill the corner. Now we have what's called the triangle is formed. That's called the second pass. The second pass has to be a penetrating pass. That's one of the principles of a sound offense. So the first pass is I pass it to Scotty. Now Scotty will, based on how the defense plays this, he will have the penetrating pass, and then that sets off the sequence. So the first look will always be into the post.
Okay.
So Bill Cartwright is in the post. BJ is in the corner. Scotty is on the wing. Michael is at the top. And then Horace is reading what we call the backdoor pass if need be. So his sequence will look like this. First look to the post, which would be Bill Cartwright. Second look would be to the top to reverse the ball or play from the pinch post.
Right.
Third look is the backdoor cut, Horace. If Horace can't get it, fourth look would be the corner to where I'm at. And then the final look would Horace has the ability to continue running. And then we would go into what's our screen roll series. With Scotty, you would run there, and remember how you guys would trap it or switch it when you guys would do
Vaguely.
Yeah, you remember.
I had a headache. Oh, no, Scotty had a headache. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So,
one of us had a headache.
All of that took place within 2 to 3 seconds. That was our flow. And we did that, and the defense always dictated where we threw the ball. Okay? And then, as you knew, we would throw wrinkles. So if we went fifth side, coach would be on the sideline going, fifth side series, and you knew what that meant. That means we would step off the post, and Michael would slash into the post. If we were running our fist down series, you knew that was a screen roll coming out of the corners. So we had all of these different looks. We would interchange Michael and Horace on the weak side, and then all of a sudden, Joe would be in isolation for a couple seconds while we're doing all this stuff on the other side of the court. So you guys knew that. We knew that. But the defense always dictated where we were going to pass the ball. So the first pass is your initiating pass. And then the second pass is your penetrating pass. And then that starts all the sequences and the reads. Now, that takes a lot of time to get to. I think that's why you don't see many teams do it. Yep. And you got to have, it helps when you have very, very skilled players, okay? Yep. Very experienced players, players who understand the offense at an elite level. So it's very difficult to teach. It's not, it's difficult to teach, but you got to really commit to playing that style of play, and that's why you don't see it often.
The hardest thing nowadays, I think, because so little time is spent on it by players, since they don't play hardly any 5-on-5 in the off season, unless it's mandatory with a team camp in high school, whether it's a AAU program where they're playing 5-on-5, but everything is 1-on-0. So the idea of players, the whole key in all of offenses, but especially the triangle, is to learn how to read the defense and react to it.
Right.
And this was a great read and react offense, because what Tex Winter designed was no matter what you did, there was always an option. And that was beautiful about it. And for someone like Michael, who didn't, he could read and react without any options. It was difficult for him to understand why I need this, I think. And it took him a long time. We felt at least a half a year to buy into it. He just totally didn't surrender to it because he was so unbelievably talented. I think Kobe went through the same thing. But once all of a sudden, I think they figured it out, the game was so easy for them.
Yeah, well, the thing is, when you have a player or two that will demand a double team more times than not, what makes this system of play a beautiful way to play is because that player has the ability to play from positions on the floor where they can't get double teamed. However, it takes a commitment from the other 4 players to make sure.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the Jordan rules are great. However, there are areas on the floor where that can't be applied, which is if you get Michael Jordan or any player of that caliber the ball at the elbow, Jordan rules are off. Okay?
Put me out of business. Came unemployed.
There are levels to this. You and Coach Daly and that team, you guys understood spacing. You understood areas on the floor. You understood where you wanted players to catch the ball. However, there are certain areas, because this game is it's very sophisticated. There are areas on the floor where you can't be double teamed. And when you have the discipline to understand the game to that level of excellence, right? Because the Detroit Pistons belong in the room of brilliance as a unit. You guys understood the game to the 10th degree. But we also know there are things that you just can't do. So it forced us to be able to utilize that player and put him in position where it didn't apply to him at certain areas or certain moments during the course of the game. That's how much we value you guys, because you guys understood that. So yeah, I'm sure you probably get this call all the time. Oh man, tell me about the Jordan rules. I'm going to take this away. Okay, that's great. However, it doesn't apply to people like me who understand, okay, good. You know the Jordan rules. I got to get the ball to my best player where that doesn't apply to him. Well, what are you talking about, BJ? I know there are areas where you can't double team him, but it requires me to coach and teach to that level of excellence if you're going to beat a team when you come to an opponent like yourself, because you can influence the game in a way that you don't see many see. So that's what I love most about a system of play, because you're going to meet someone like yourself. You're going to meet people like you and Chuck Daly and Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars and Dennis Rodman. This is like Hall of Fame stuff. This isn't just like your everyday where we're just going to trap on a double team. We're going to push a guy left. No, you're not. No, you're not. This is what we're going to do. And then everyone is adjusting on every possession. You guys are trying to get players to catch the ball in certain areas. Like, we know the Pistons can take away this option, but why are they allowing me to catch the ball here? It must be some scheme that they're running that we're not aware of, And then once we figured that out, we made an adjustment. So that was probably the most exciting time in my career, because I had never seen a team with that attention, paid that much attention to that level, at that level of detail ever. I've never seen that before. And I can still recall that. A lot of things I don't remember, but I can recall that because you guys were excellent. You're just the best.
I appreciate the flowers, but frankly, I wish you never learned the triangle, because I'd have about 5 damn rings now. Okay. But here's the thing, BJ, I wanted to say to you, we've been on this learning journey together for several years now, and I love it every day. But one of the things that I'm so impressed with, you have developed an amazing philosophy. You all the things that are who you were as a player, all your intellect, all that, you understand how you're going to take from a lot of people and blend it into your own style.
Right.
But also, more importantly, you have a strong belief system. You're very disciplined. You're very into detail. And all those things will make that third grade team the best coach team in Ojai, California. But one of the things is that you have such a passion for teaching and coaching the game. I love it. And I'm proud of you, man.
No, thank you. And coaching is one of those, it's in my opinion, in today's game, it's the last position in professional sports, in professional basketball, where winning is still the criteria that's needed to perform at that job. Everyone, now you have, let's just call it what it is. Now you have tanking. You have financially, an owner can say, hey, we're not going into the luxury tax, and then so be it. The players, hey, I got 9. Well, I can, now he needs help, or whatever the case may be. It doesn't work out. They need to be traded, or whatever the case may be. Where coaching You got to win. That's still the essence. Competition is still the essence. And I study coaching. I've always studied coaching because there's nothing greater than being with a group of people and you have a single thought, a shared single thought. That to me is the greatest thing. That's the only thing I miss. I don't miss the game. I don't miss anything about, hey, when I played, I left it there and then I moved on. But what I do miss is I miss being in a room with other people and we have a shared thought. Like I miss these conversations where I know Coach Suhr, like what's Coach Suhr doing? Well, he's in his room trying to figure out the same thing I'm trying to figure out. And where's that guy? And we all get on the bus, okay? And we have a shared thought and we're trying to figure this out. That is what I do miss. I miss that part of the game of being in a group of 25 people, from the media people, and when your organization is committed to that. So I've always studied coaching. I value coaching. And when I see excellent coaching, I applaud it, because the coaching pupil relationship or coaching player relationship to me is the most valued relationship in all of sports. I have to be coachable, but that coach also has to have the courage to be able to do what he or she set out to do with this group. And I value that. I respect it. And all of the coaches, I'm forever grateful. I'm forever grateful for this conversation. And to people who take on that responsibility of coaching, because it's valued. And any player will tell you, if you're fortunate enough to have a great coach, it's one of the most transformational things ever. It's when you have a great coach, it's the greatest. It's just the greatest relationship. I'm a better player. We're a better team. You're a better coach, provided I have some talent. It just works. And it's the greatest. I haven't experienced anything greater than that experience of having that relationship. So I value it. And, the game is changing. Something, we can talk about coaching today is what it used to be, but that relationship is very, very special. And I always hold it to that level of excellence.
So well said, my friend. I appreciate that. And, and it's always a thrill when we get a chance to talk. And, you're one of the real brilliant people around. And I thank you for sharing with our audience. I know they're going to get so much out of this. So till I talk to you later today, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. And
I'll call you in 5 minutes.
And so, I appreciate it. And thanks so much. And I know our listeners got a heck of a lot out of it. Till next week, this is the Coach, Brendan Suhr.